It's my perspective. Yeah, from my perspective. It's my perspective. Yeah, yo, am I wrong or is it just you? Or did my life show me some things that gave me my view? And if I went through what you went through, would I be you? I don't know. That's too many questions with no answer, but plenty chances for many lessons. Am I willing to learn that it's all perception? That the picture that I paint ain't the one that you sketching? So can we disagree without drawing a weapon? Long as I can understand that it's just your perspective. Yeah, it's my perspective. Yeah, from my perspective. Good evening, happy Friday, and welcome to My Perspective, y'all, where we take a bunch of hot topics, fun topics, all topics, and hit them from our unique perspective. And when I say unique, I really mean unique. We don't have a script, there's no agenda. We just taking these topics, speaking from our core beliefs, and letting the chips fall where they may. So now that I've introduced the show, let me introduce you to the crew.
I'm Caitlin, and I'm 14 years old.
I'm Janasia, I'm 22.
I'm Olivia, and I'm 17.
And I'm Tila Cole, I'm representing the 40s.
And I'm Faraj, your host, representing those born in the late 80s. We're going to jump right into our first topic tonight, y'all. I'm glad we got the teens on here today because, personally, I don't even really know how to answer this question, but I would love to see what you guys think about what is the appropriate age to start dating. Go.
16.
16.
Okay.
How you come to that conclusion?
It's just a comfortable age to start dating. Like, I feel like 15, a little too young. I don't know why. It's how I feel, dude.
So those short 12 months make the difference. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. 16 is probably a good age because, like, you can drive then, so, like, you're able to get yourself places without having to, like, get your parents to take you.
I like the fact that you feel like you don't want to bother me. That's a good. You might sway me with that. What do you think?
No, I think 16. I definitely agree with 16. I feel like 16 mature, 15. Anything once you get to high school, if it's mature, I feel like that.
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah.
Maturity level definitely plays a part in it.
Because even 16 might not be mature.
Exactly.
So, but 16, you know, you're at that age where even if you ain't mature, you old enough to make mistakes and get popped.
And get locked up?
Yeah.
So, well, I'm taking to a different aspect. Because you have things called group dates that you don't personally call a date.
Yes.
So if you're going on like a group activity
Right,
with
movies
multiple
or
people, you can do that maybe
Yeah.
around 13, 14, 15. But when you try to do that 1, 2 things,
So now what?
16.
16?
Yeah, I feel like 16 is good.
It's crazy because I thought about this question. Like, I got a 7-year-old right now, and he's real shy. Don't like to talk about girls or anything yet.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, so if he's 8 years old and start coming home talking about a little girlfriend and all of that, it's like,
Well, you know,
I know he's not dating, but
It's not serious at that age. Like, elementary school is not serious.
it's like the play taps, you know, cutesy little things.
all
Yeah.
right.
So he might come home talking about girls. Don't feel
So,
like
no,
it's
I'm
a
good
big
with it,
thing.
but that's where I kind of, drew the line. Like, are we talking about dating? Or are we talking about having them little feelings that you can't really do nothing about?
So when you feel like it'd be a good appropriate time for him to date?
Nah. Welcome back to My Perspective. So, y'all, we just wrapped that first segment up, and we talked about what we thought the appropriate age was, and everybody seemed to be in agreement that somewhere around 16. I said 8, but hey, I'm the odd man out here, literally this time. But I did want to talk about what you think the appropriate age is to actually begin having that conversation. And I'll start down with you, Kate.
I'm thinking around maybe high school because I just started high school a couple months ago, and I'm 14, and I know that my parents said that I am allowed to date if I want to, but, like, not yet, obviously, but yeah.
I think it should be started around, like, puberty, because that's when you get, like, the hormones. That's when you're becoming your own person. It's pretty much when you're maturing. Like I said, you're getting your personality, and I feel like as that progresses and you know who you are, that's when the conversation.
I kind of take a different approach because, again, I have a son who's just now beginning to feel comfortable talking about the young ladies, and I don't want to kind of stunt his growth by saying, we're not going to talk about that right now. I want him to be free to have that conversation whenever he, feels like it. So I think it's kind of like when they start presenting to you, and of
Absolutely.
course you give it back to them in an age appropriate manner. Like I'm not going to have my son talking about driving and you know some more advanced things
Right.
that you may
Like
do,
you
but
can't force it. They need to be comfortable
right,
with it.
right, and that's how
I would say
feel
they're
about
thinking
that.
about something if they approach you with it. So if they come to you with a serious question about dating, maybe they bought it from a kid at school, saw it on TV, it's the appropriate time to talk about it because you want them to get it from you and not just everyone else.
Absolutely, especially with the things they're exposed to.
Absolutely.
I definitely agree. I think whenever your child presents, them interests to you, I think you should definitely talk about it just because that is your job as a parent, as a guardian. But if they don't ever do that, because like me, I knew I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend until I was like 18. So I never came to my parents about it. I knew not to say nothing about it.
But did you like boys? Were you talking to boys though?
I was, but they didn't know that.
And
So that's what I'm saying.
where my
But
struggle's at, right?
So who do you talk to when you don't have the parent to go talk to?
nobody.
You
That's
don't
what
talk
I'm
to
saying.
nobody,
I
man.
talked to my cousins and stuff, and that just little stuff like that, because I knew what I wasn't supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
They didn't really care about me like talking to boys. I just knew I wasn't supposed to have no boyfriend. So
And for
that
somebody
was-
like me, it's crazy because my first conversation with my mom was, man, I think she's pregnant. You know what I'm saying? That's like how we,
Wow.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah,
so
but
you
yes,
go all of
man.
these years without that conversation, and that's how you tell your mom that I'm out here. That's
Did
tough.
she know you were
Yeah.
dating though?
She did know that, but we
But
never
you never
talked,
had
and so there was no
conversation.
conversation about dating. There was no conversation about sex. There was no conversations at
So
all.
you think the conversation about sex should come up when they talk about dating at a
I think
certain
there's the
point?
potential. Olivia talked about puberty and all the feelings that you get. So
Absolutely.
I think there's again time and place for it all,
I
and
feel
that
like
very well may be
it's
time.
definitely mandatory to do it at a certain age. Because just because I didn't go to my parents at a younger age, I definitely, we had that talk. We definitely did have the boyfriend talk at an early age, but I didn't go to my parents for it. So that's why I agree. If your child comes to you, you should definitely, figure it all out. But if your child doesn't, there's a mandatory age you got to start doing that. Maybe like middle school, early high school,
Yeah.
something like that.
Well, Caitlin brought it up that her parents talk about she can date if she wants
Right,
to, but
yeah.
she's not ready to do
Yeah,
that.
I have like a lot of like guy
Yeah.
friends and stuff, and so like sometimes like my parents will ask me about them, and like it's fine, but like I'm just friends with them. Like I'm not gonna like date them right now or anything.
That's cool, man. So what do you consider dating?
Probably like I know like group dates, but I feel like that's more like I would go with my friends and like our other guy friends, but like I feel like dating would be more like a one-on-one type of
Gotcha.
thing.
It all depends on what you prefer, but definitely I agree
Yeah.
with her. Group dates is kind of just like a
Hanging out.
hangout.
Yeah,
with
like friends hanging out.
Or
a
grown up
friend.
play date?
Just to get you comfortable.
Yeah.
'cause it's some nervous energy that comes with that first date.
Huh.
So having other people there, like your
Yeah.
sidekick, that person, can we go
Double
to the
date.
bathroom? Double date.
Yeah.
Someone that's gonna help you through certain aspects of that date, especially being first.
Y'all
I feel
don't know y'all
a little
helping
bit
me out.
first.
Y'all helping me out big time. Again, I never talked about it. I'm sitting here looking at my boy grow, and I'm telling you, I need it. I appreciate y'all for real. 'Cause I'm learning. Welcome back to My Perspective. A couple minutes ago, you talked about how you didn't talk to your dad much. You always go to your mom. He still doesn't even know that you dated when you were 16 because he told you 18, right? All right. So what's the difference between the two parents? What did you feel was the difference?
My mom and my dad, I'm the only child, so my mom and my dad are both my best friends. They both were strict on me, but my mom, for some reason, was just always a little bit more lenient, just a tad bit. She was still strict, but it was easier to go to her and talk to her about it, maybe because, we're both females, I'm not sure, but my dad, he took overprotective to a whole nother level. Like, why I was so scared to always freaking date is because he used to put it in my head how if I ever had a boyfriend, he would sit here and chop his head off and put it in the freezer. Now he's been telling me this since I was like 3 years old, so I
you
never.
believe it.
Yeah, still to this day, me and him was just talking about it recently, like how he used to tell me that, and that's why I was always
That's
scared to
crazy.
freaking bring a
I
boy
wonder if
home.
that's what it is, cause with my wife, I got 4 kids now, and I'm always a little more lenient on my boys. I'm a little more protective, believe it or not, of my boys, and I feel like I'm unique in that regard. But I think my wife, she's more lenient on my daughter already. The way she talked about my daughter before we ever had one is like, I don't mess with her, man. Look, she gonna do this, she gonna do. I'm like, man, I wonder if it's just an understanding thing. Like you trust yourself more than you trust, the opposite. I don't know what it is. I'm still trying to figure it out, and I'm a father.
I feel like it's just because because you know a man is gonna understand, you know, a young boy because you was there. You know you've been in that place, and a woman is gonna understand a little lady because she was in that place as well. That's my opinion. I'm not too sure.
Because sometimes if the girl is older,
Yeah.
and the boys are younger, but then you have the flop side where the girls are older. So it sometimes depends on the age and how, because you know, your first child, you're a little more lenient on them. Or more, no, not lenient,
Probably
more strict on them.
Yeah,
And then the younger ones, you're a little more lenient.
It's more about understanding. Like
Yeah.
I said, a woman knows what it's like to be a girl.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you always need that man's perspective.
Yeah,
because
definitely. It's very
like this boy
important.
does this boy does that. If he says
Very
this to you,
important.
dad needs to be the one talking about what is this boy going to
And
be
I'm
thinking
one
on
that
the
tell
date.
my wife, do not talk to my sons, because I see how she kind of overreacts sometimes to the things I said. I'm like, but he's gonna come to you with that, you know. So then you can't, because then he's not coming back, right? He's not coming back.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know I'm the oldest child, so like my parents are strict on me about that stuff. And so like, but I would talk to both my parents because, well, my mom just like asked me about that stuff more. Like she's like, oh, how are like your friends? We met any new people or whatever. I was like, no, mom, it's fine, because like nothing's really happened yet. But I know like my little sister, she's 8, and we were already talking about this at dinner the other day, and she's over here like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start dating next year, mom.
Oh,
and I was
no.
like, okay, go, honey. She doesn't care. So.
I heard that. Yeah, mom is gonna get real. We'll see how the conversations go after this thing airs, because mom gonna hear you say yeah, mom. Anyway, look. So yeah, I agree. I think you know, again, moms tend to be a little more understanding, but again, in my house, it's just so interesting how protective. Again, that mama's boy thing. You know, she's so protective over these boys, and it's weird because I am too. I told her plenty of times, this little one, that's my girl. When she go, she go. When she go, she go. I'm so protective over my. It is so interesting. I have no clue why. Interesting. I know it's personal. I know it's not. Because again, I think as fathers, we're trained, conditioned to be that bully, to be that, don't you talk to my daughter, hey, call the boys over, let's make this little boy scared for his life. He need to believe like you believe that I'm going to chop his head off, you know, but I'm just not that way.
And a lot of times the mothers who know ahead of time, because we know how to have that softer touch, you know, even though we feel it inside, our blood is boiling, we know how to handle the conversation.
So you
a
do
little
feel
better.
what I
yeah,
feel.
we feel it. Because we tell you, I feel it. I have boys and girls, and I'm like, do I really want to have that conversation? And depending on what comes out of their mouth, I'm like, okay, give me a second. I have to rethink, because I don't want them to get to the point where it's like, I told you something, now I can't come back to you. So I think it's just the approach that a lot of times we take a moment. Sometimes the guys just jump like, what? What did you just say? No, you're not going to do that. So sometimes you got to take a step back to understand what they're going through and then give it a different perspective.
I think it's so necessary. I think it's absolutely necessary, and I mean, that's just how I feel as a father. Try not to be that bully, but definitely try to understand both of them when they're having that conversation. Whenever that time comes, I'll try to be that voice of reason for mine.
But I also know I have a older son, and I'm like, nobody's good enough for you, okay? So, you know, but then I also tell my daughters, you know, nobody's good enough for you either, because you have to know where those standards are.
I'm gonna let you guys know, boys, girls, nobody's good enough for our children. So when you start coming to us asking what's the appropriate age for dating, never. When I die. When I
That sounds very much like a father response.
Hey, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, first show, you guys killed it. And we're going to close it out real quick with our final thoughts, y'all. So I'll start. As a father, again, I feel like, you know, we want to be very understanding. We want to listen to them. Pay attention to our kids. That's one of my mottos. Pay attention to your kids. And as they show you it's time, then I guess you got to be ready to have that conversation. Go this way.
Okay. I think I agree with you, because if they come to you, I feel like that's the time to have that conversation. May not be the time to actually say, yes, it's time for you to date, but have that conversation and give them those protocols and what to do when they start dating.
Agreed. I agree. I don't think I can
Drop the
say any more about it.
I definitely agree with that, and I think me, you know, both having strict parents, I think it's very important to just make your kids feel comfortable, like to come to you and stuff like that, because that would have made my situation a lot easier. My parents made me feel comfortable to talk about anything, but like I knew the reaction if they didn't want to hear something that I had to say. So it's important to, you know, just keep leveled, even if you feel crazy inside, like how you were saying about boiling up and stuff. Even if you feel crazy inside, like just let your kids talk to you and just try to keep your composure because it'll help us so much.
Caitlin, take us home.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone said. I think that you should start dating when you feel ready. Like, I know I'm 14, so I'm probably not going to start dating right now, even though my parents said that it's okay for me to. But you should start doing it when it's comfortable for you.
From my perspective, we'll see you next week.